No, there's no obligation. It's voluntary. The rules of the Interpol itself says that. So, in other words, so the question is, why did Marcos decide to volunteer, to use his discretion?
Enzo Recto, kalaban ang katiwalian at kasinungalingan, kakampi sa katotohanan at kabutihan.
Sinadya raw talaga ni Pangulong Marcos itong pag-surrender kay Digong sa Interpol dahil po mga kabunyog, binunyag ng isang eksperto na wala naman raw obligasyon ang Interpol na sundin sila ng Pilipinas, bagkus ito ay voluntaryo lamang. Kung gusto ng isang bansa na isuko ang kanilang kababayan, willing makipagtulungan ang Interpol dito. Pero wala naman raw sa batas ng Interpol na obligahin ang Pilipinas na tulungan sila. Ito po ay ayon kay dating chief ng NEDA na si Winnie Munsod. Anyway, ito na po ang patunay ng sinabi ni PBBM na papalag siya sa mga ginagawa ng mga Duterte. Anyway, para po sa iba pang mga detalye ng isyong ito, pakinggan po natin ang kanyang mga sinabi.
Sinasabi po ninyo dapat tinapat na lang ni Pangulong Marcos Jr. Sinabi ang katotohanan. Hindi na lang niya sinabing it's our obligation to the Interpol.
No, there's no obligation. It's voluntary. The rules of the Interpol itself says that. So, in other words, so the question is, why did Marcos decide to volunteer, to use his discretion, as Attorney Butuyan says, discretion? Well, he wanted to use his discretion because he knows that Duterte cannot get the justice that he deserves here in the Philippines. How do we know that? Well, the ICC gave the Philippines a chance to do it, to bring Duterte to justice himself. They gave the administration, not the Marcos administration, the Duterte administration, about a year. You can see that in the ICC proceedings. You know, because the Philippine government had said, please don't investigate, we will do it ourselves. You know, the ICC does not take cognizance of these things unless they feel they know that the country is either unwilling or unable to do what they should be doing. And, you know, everybody knows that we have a justice system. That means we are able to do it. But were we willing to do it? And we were not willing to bring these cases to justice during the Duterte administration. And even now, in the Marcos administration, nobody was willing. So what did you expect the ICC to do? Unwilling pala ang country. Unable pala yung country. You know? Meron silang pruweba na ganun yun. Kasi walang kaso na ilalabas eh. Konting-konti lang. You know?
Yes.
Dapat yan sinabi ni Marcos.
Kasi Professor, I interviewed as a former Senior Associate Justice Antonio Carpio earlier this week, and he also said that the surrender is an option. So sinabi niya option yon, but then here is the President saying it's an obligation.
That's right. And the President's taking that stance makes his story very incredible. Because on the one hand, he says he's not going to help the ICC. On the other hand, he wants to help the Interpol. It's a kagag. That doesn't make sense. And to the ordinary Filipino, that does not make sense. But if the President says, you know, this has taken too long, and let us face it, you know, we cannot, our justice system may be able to do it, but nobody's willing to do it because President Duterte has very great influence in the Philippines. However, we have to give justice to these people who are asking for justice. Who are the people asking for justice? The thousands of people who died without due process. Yes? And that to be understood by the Filipino people. Oo nga naman. Kailangan marinig itong mga tao ito. hindi maririnig dito sa Pilipinas eh. Not in the justice system anyway. Diba? O, yun ang pagkain de Lima. 7 years siya. Wow.
Why do you think didn't President Marcos Jr. bakit hindi niya pinanindigan ang kanyang desisyon? Bakit ginamit niya yung obligation, obligatory to?
Well, you know, Karen, the president wanted to have his cake and eat it too. He wanted to get rid of Duterte and yet make himself, mabango to the Duterte supporters. You cannot do that. You have to just tell them like it is. And I'm sure the Filipino people are not dumb. And they'll say, yes, Duterte has to be tried in The Hague because you cannot possibly try him here. Hindi ba?
That's a very good point. You said something that's quite interesting. Wanting to have your cake and eat it too. Is it similar to wanting to wash your hands of a decision you've made?
Yeah. See, lies, and Duterte was lying also, but Mr. Marcos, the president, is lying also when he says that, we are obligated. Of course not. Guys, all you have to do is read the rules. And so either he did not read the rules or he's dumb. And he is not dumb. I had some experience with him. He is not dumb. Maybe he's lazy. He's not dumb.
Okay, now I don't want to. If you
go get that further.
Let's not move that further because some debate on you on that he's lazy. Some won't agree with you on that. All right.
Karen, remember, if we apply the proportions, those who voted, those who are registered voters versus those who voted, that's 1/3 of those registered voters voted, and of that 1/3, 70% voted for the president, for Duterte. So that's 70% times 33%. That's 23%. You can assume that's the most na. That 23% of Filipinos working abroad are Duterteites.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
Now, I'm going to move this further. Being an economist, the fact that the former president is now facing trial at The Hague, the vice president has a looming impeachment trial which starts end of July. You have the midterm elections coming up. Right now, we don't know as a country what would happen with the impeachment. Will the vice president see it through? Would she want to see herself convicted? She might resign. You right now have the stock market at, I would have to say, one of the all-time lows. Right? And there are external factors, but you also have foreign direct investments also at a low. What this whole political exercise with Marcos and Duterte, what will this cost us, the Filipino people, the economy in general?
That is instability. That is political instability, and that is a death knell for foreign direct investment. We don't know what's happening. They're uncertain. And uncertainty kills anything. Well, I better wait and see. And if you wait and see, you don't invest. But that is very, very clear from the very beginning. Karen, I teach a course in development economics.
Yeah.
And it's so clear that what is preventing investment, even direct investment, local direct investment, is uncertainty. And that uncertainty is caused by governance and institutions. Their governance is ineffective, and the institutions are in doubt. Diba? And that's what kills. You remember, Karen, in 2015, when Pinoy was president, the Philippines was one of the 10 top investment destinations. And what was it? What was that based on? It was based on the fact that he had rule of law. Ang taas-taas ng ating score sa rule of law index, and ang taas-taas ng score natin sa corruption perception index. He showed that corruption could be reduced. Remember, he arrested so many people. Remember the three witches arresting senators and congressmen, etc. Wow, that was such an impact on foreign direct investment. Can you imagine we were number 10? We didn't have to change the constitution, for God's sake. Talaga. And then what happened? Ay, naku. Nung umalis si Aquino, bumaba na naman yung ating corruption perception at saka bumaba rin yung ating rule of law index. And that is completely consistent with what is in the textbook. You don't have effective governance and you don't have good institutions. In other words, there's corruption, etc. You're not going to get anywhere. So that's it. This uncertainty, this incredibility of this current administration. In other words, the doubts into the mind. Are they doing this for the country or are they doing this for themselves? That's the question. If they're doing it for the country, the people will support them. If they're doing it with themselves, the Filipino people are not dumb.
All right. On that note, I want to thank you for joining me today. You've contextualized this so well. You want to add anything first, Professor?
I just wish that we could all get this behind us, because there's so much we have to do. And now, instead of thinking about what are the best senators we can choose, what are the best congressmen we can choose, and we can really concentrate on them, our minds are distracted by what's going on abroad, what's going on in the Philippines, the impeachment, etc. And where are the Filipino people in all of this? What does this do to the Philippine economy for the growth and development?
Bunyog, bunyog, halikan na kasama ka. Bunyog, kapag buklod ay may pag-asa. Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, isa ang pananaw. Sa bagong Pilipinas ang bunyog isisigaw. Bunyog.